What is up, everybody? It is Alex from Heavy New York, calling from the quarantine zone again. This time we are here with Christian of the Amatory Murder. Great to be able to talk to one of New York City's own. Thanks for being here today, man.
Of course, it's awesome to see you again. I feel like I always run into you, but we never did an interview, so.
Yeah, I know, and it's been a long time coming. And great show at the Lucky 13 show. Great, huge shout out to Chris Smack as well. I do apologize. I think I had a little one too many, like right when your set was starting, so I managed to only capture like a good portion of the set, but it was killer.
I mean, dude, that we sound better. The drunker you get, the better we sound.
Okay, well, hey, that's good promotion right there. That's a good way to help the bar too. So
Yeah,
yeah.
I love Lucky 13s.
Yeah, it's my favorite place in the world. But it's so cool to have you here. The newest single and video that's out right now is Are We the Machines? Great title, great video, and a great song. Is this maybe a good representation on like what the direction the Amatory Murder is going into from here on out in the future? Is this what like is this a good representation of the sound you're going for and what we're going to see in the future?
I think so. I think we're getting a little heavier and atmospheric. I think Singularity Complex, which is the album with Are We the Machines, is very it's very symbolic of that. So yeah, I mean it's almost like a little more classic rock influenced than our older stuff, which was a little more industrial, I guess. So
Yeah.
yeah, I'd say that's a good representation.
Yeah, I've always said, like, I mean, because New York City does have its own little industrial scene in a way with you guys and, Chris Smack always doing his thing and all that. And it almost seems like you're the industrial band. Did you kind of intend to break out of that more industrial sound and have something a little bit more raw and more hard rock influence? Is that the direction you always wanted to go? Or is it just kind of turning out that way?
I think we've always been on the outskirts of like every rock scene in New York or every music scene. I think the reason why originally maybe we got more industrial shows is because when I started the project, it was just me and like synthesizers and drum machines. It was very, kind of Trent Reznor influenced. So it naturally, when people hear like more computer oriented stuff, they assume you're, more industrial sounding. And I think that with the addition of Scott and Buckley and Binks, there's just a more natural progression. It's more organic, and I think especially with this last album, we're kind of like, oh well, let's just really do what we want to do, more from the heart. Not that everything else wasn't from the heart, but it was more bouncing ideas off of each other than we had in the past.
Okay. And I believe I sort of in a way just asked this, but is what we're hearing now the sound you've always wanted to do with the Amatory Murder? Like as before you were just kind of like working with what you had, this is something that you've always wanted to do? Or was this just like a very organic, natural reckoning in your sound in a way?
I think a little of both because, I mean, I always wanted a band. Like I always wanted like a band like with the camaraderie of the Beatles, where it was like everyone was like equally invested and like kind of bouncing ideas off of each other. I think maybe in my own head, I'm a big fan of Muse, Pink Floyd, and U2. So I think on some degree, I always wanted to front a band like that. But just with the way we've been writing together, it kind of came to fruition. You know what I mean?
Yeah, definitely. Definitely. And and it's fair to say too, the more members you have, the more doors open, right? Because I mean, when I hear the Amatory Murder and the occasions that I've seen you live, like I don't singly pigeonhole it into one style. So it's fair to say that having more members means more new tricks and twists you could add into your sound as well, right?
Yeah. I think everything's on the table sound wise, and I think especially in the day and age we live in, I think it's a good thing not to pigeonhole yourself. And yeah, when you have more members, I mean everyone has their ideas. You know what I mean? I know you know Scott, right?
Yeah.
Our drummer. Yeah, so he's a big prog rock guy. So he comes with like these. There's a song on the album called Room 208 Part 2, and that's very much, you know, 75% his idea musically.
Yeah. So are you gonna have more like 27-minute long songs now, having the prog influence?
I try to rein that in. You know, when we were recording, when we record, especially with Scott with the drums, like you do have to rein the guy in a little here and there. But and that's, hey man, who's to say we won't do a 27-minute long song? I mean,
Yeah.
we've been experimenting with some of the songs of Singularity Complex at rehearsals, and just kind of we'll jam out sections now, and they turn into, like, a 5-minute song turns into a 10-minute song. But we do our best to keep it interesting. You don't just want to go and jerk off.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah, absolutely, or absolutely not. Depends who you ask. But
That's right.
it's fun too because I mean, the first time I saw the Amatory Murder live, I believe it was in 2017. I remember. It's because I remember seeing you at Lucky 13, and I just got my Hybrid Theory tattoo, so it was around there. And you did a cover of What I
Yeah.
Done. You did a cover of What I Done. Great time as well. It was an early show too, and I remember already one person was passed out and sleeping in the office at that show. But
Yeah. That
but
was a great night. That was Tim. Tim put that
yeah,
together.
yeah, Tim 37 put that together. Yeah,
Yeah.
and it just seemed like covering Linkin Park to having industrial influences, having a prog rock drummer. There, you can cover all along the periodic table of subgenres in metal.
Yeah, yeah. I really, it's cliche, but the world is your oyster, and I think, I love that I'm able to work with three other really creative guys. That, yeah, we can. When you don't have a label and you don't have, I mean, things are so different these days. You really can do what you want.
Yeah.
You really can do what you feel, and what you think sounds good, and
Do you think, and that's probably have allowed you to play on different types of shows as well, right? Because, I mean, I can't just see you playing a metal show or a rock show. I'm sure I could easily see you guys playing just about any type of show to any type of audience.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, first of all, like we'll accept most any show that gets thrown our way, because we love to play. We love to play music. But it's funny you brought that up, because especially with the way the world has been for the past 18 months, when shows weren't really happening, or when they started coming back, a lot of stuff was outside. So we ended up doing a couple of acoustic shows, which, you know, we play rock music. I mean, and so it was. I don't want to say it was challenging, but it was different for us. And when we got offered this one acoustic show I'm thinking of, it was like right. I think it was in May at Arrogant Swine, maybe.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what it was. A good friend of mine, Joseph King, he's the one that put it together. He said, "Would you guys want to do an acoustic show?" And he's like, it wouldn't, maybe not even the full band, but just if you think you could pull it off. I was like, yeah. And Scott's been taking tabla lessons, so we incorporated that in. And our guitarist was actually laid up for a while because he had surgery, so I played guitar, but it wasn't heavy the way we normally do, and we had the bass, but it was completely different. It was reimagining of our music, and it was fun, and it was like, when we were done, we're like, oh wow, we can do this now. You know?
It seems like you guys. It seems like the Amatory Murder is a band that's constantly having moments of self-reckoning, or like self-discovery in a way.
Yeah, I mean, when you're with the same kind of same people for years at this point, you gotta. It's like a relationship with a chick. You gotta keep it spicy in the bedroom,
Yeah.
Well, in the music room.
Yeah. Well, that's a interesting analogy, I gotta say, and that's I'll definitely take that one with me. But when it comes to the vocals, I mean, has there ever been a time where maybe a lyrical concept or a lyrical idea can maybe influence the sound of the music itself as well, or has music always needed to be there before lyrics came into play?
I think when it was just me early on, I had I would write little diddlies in my notepad, ideas, like lyrical ideas, poetry, that kind of stuff. But for the most part, it was a lot. The music kind of came first. I'd be like, oh, this sounds cool. And now now it's like this last record, especially a Singularity Complex, like it was kind of half and half. Like, you know, Scott and Binks, they came with like a lot of music, and Buckley came with a lot of music. So I focused more on lyrics in reaction to to what they were hearing musically. There's this one song we have called Master, which is like, in retrospect, it's very David Bowie sounding. And I was in a really Bowie mood when I heard Buckley's initial riff, because it was so atmospheric, and it reminded me of, like, you know, a Scary Monsters era Bowie.
Yeah.
So I kind of wrote the lyrics. I mean, I wrote lyrics from my, you know, the way I felt about things, but I put a Bowie tinge on them, you know?
Definitely. So it's so also having three other members, it definitely takes a lot of weight off your shoulder, and you could just focus on the vocals and lyrics, right?
Yeah, it does. I mean, I love writing. I love writing music. I love writing lyrics. But then, you know, there are periods. Actually, this record in particular, we had started it in really late 2017. You were really gung ho, and then my father died suddenly in like 2018.
Oh, I'm sorry.
And thanks. And things kind of got to I just wasn't in the mood to write or do much of anything, you know. But we still met up, and that's kind of when I started letting them take the reins a little bit, the rest of the band, and that was cool, you know what I mean? Because it was different, you know, and it definitely took a weight off my shoulders that I didn't feel as much pressure to come into rehearsals, to come into the studio with everything kind of laid out, you know?
Yeah. Do you want lyrics to be open to interpretation for the Amatory Murder, or do you think that the messaging or the lyricism is just as important as the music, and you kind of want the listener to take that to heart as much as the music itself?
That's a great question. You know, I remember watching this one interview when I was growing up. It was with John Lennon, and they asked him about like revolution, and they were going through the lyrics, and, you know, what does this mean? And he goes, it's just whatever you want it to mean, you know? And I always thought that was a really great answer. I kind of like the idea of, like, you know, when I listen to a song for the first time by an artist I like, you really get to project yourself into the song, you know? And I think it's really cool if people are able to do that with our stuff. I think especially with this album, it's a little different, because I'm a little more blunt lyrically about certain things than I have been in the past. But, you know, if someone comes up to me and they says, like, what is this about? You know what I mean? I'm not going to be like, oh, it's whatever you want it to be about. Like, I'll kind of give a general gist, you know? But I don't want to ruin it for them if they have...
Yeah. Well, I appreciate that, because, I mean, I'll be honest with you, not to, you know, disagree with the great, holier-than-thou John Lennon, but I've always said that, like, it's whatever you want it to be. And I learned this from being in art school and using that as a cop-out for not explaining my work, but it almost sounds kind of pretentious in a way, because, like, it almost feels like a cop-out for an artist not to defend their work in a way, you know what I mean? And I think, obviously, you don't want to, you know, force feed a message down somebody's throat. You don't want to say, like, it's this and only this, and you're wrong if you interpret it differently. But at the same time, I've always, you know, one vocalist who I've always admired because he was so good at explaining his lyrics was David Draymond of Disturbed, because he explains that, like, Inside the Fire is about losing somebody he cared about to suicide. He, you know, he had a song of, you know, Believe, which is about, you know, his grandfather disinheriting him for, you know, pursuing music. So, like, it almost seems like it's always good when an artist is able to explain their work. And if a listener can still get their own meaning behind it, that's just the best of both worlds. And that, to me, makes a strong song. But that's my opinion.
No, that's really great. And it's funny you said the art school thing. I went to art college as well, and that used to piss me off too.
Where'd you go to school?
I guess, like, FIT.
Oh, well, I gotta hang up now. I don't like you anymore. I went to SVA, man.
Hey, I hated FIT, so
Okay.
SVA, that's a great school, man.
Yeah. Okay. Very good. Very good. You're forgiven. What did you study? What did you study?
Illustration,
Oh,
and with a heavy emphasis on graphic design.
okay. Uh,
Um,
did that maybe visual like aspect maybe influence though you how you create music as well? I love talking to artists who also work in the world of visual art as well.
yeah, it's weird. I've always been very visual. Like even when I like listen to music or write music or like I'm fucking around in my studio and like playing with like soundscapes or like guitar tones. It's like I I didn't realize this till recently actually. Like I assign colors to them, and it's not synesthesia. It's not like that. It's
Okay,
just
I was
like
about to ask that.
yeah. Oh, because that would be. I mean, I think that'd be awesome. I don't know. Maybe people with synesthesia think it would suck,
It,
but
it is pretty awesome, may I say.
but like I've always done that, and I mean I design all our stuff. Like everything you see from us is all the album covers, everything like that, and I always incorporate the colors that I see when I'm writing the music.
Okay.
Um, yeah. There was something you said. Oh, yeah, about the lyric thing. I think a good example of that is like I'll I'll lyrically I'll do things where it's like it could be about this, but it could also be about that. So like the song Master that I had mentioned before, um, it that's like kind of about one thing, but I assigned it this like idea of it being like a dominatrix. It's basically about like you know uh, fighting back and the master is kind of like society and but I also did this thing where like I made it like a woman, a dominatrix, like master,
Yeah.
and I like doing stuff like that lyrically.
It's both literal and metaphorical.
Yes, that's what I meant. um the song My Love that's on the album, that's actually my father's song that I discovered when he died,
Oh, okay.
and I wanted to record it with the guys. And I mean, God, they did such a great job on that one. That was good. So I mean, if someone said like, "Oh, what's that song about?" Like, "Oh, you know, my father wrote that." Like, blunt. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Okay. So
Yeah.
every song has a story. It has a meaning. It's open, but also there is a meaning that people can sort of dig and maybe see things from your point of view.
Yeah. Yes. And I mean, I will say that like this last album and even Neurotica before it, like we all sat down and we were like, we kind of want to do we want to do concept albums. So there's like they're open to interpretation, but like even the theme of singularity complex is that the title itself I feel is self-explanatory.
Yeah, well,
Um,
Mastodon I consider to be the ultimate kings of concept albums. When you take an album like Crack the Sky, I mean, that's about Rasputin from Russia,
yeah.
but it's also dedicated to Daler's sister who passed away. And like to take a historical and a personal story and put that together, that could be analyzed from all angles. I think another great example is The Black Parade by My Chemical Romance.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like very concept album from start to finish, but boy is it relatable. So I think there's a good reference point.
Yeah, I think, and one of our big influences is Pink Floyd. So like The Wall, I mean, that's a great example too.
Yeah, yeah,
Um, yeah, I mean, Singularity Complex is, it's personal on an emotional level, but it's also based on, Elon Musk's warning that like humans and technology are starting to merge at a very fast rate.
yep. And
You know,
Elon Musk. I mean, you listen to that guy. So
yeah, yeah. That interview he did with Joe Rogan was life changing for
which
me.
which one? He did like three of them. The one where
Yeah,
he smoked the joint publicly.
it was probably that one.
Did you watch
Then
him
I
on
really
Saturday?
paid attention.
Did you watch him on Saturday Night Live?
Yeah, it was.
Dude, that Mario skit, I don't care what people say about Elon
Oh
Musk.
my
That
God,
Mario
it was
skit
great.
was awesome. That was genius.
But so like that idea, and then, you know, I'm a big Carl Jung fan, a big Carl Sagan fan, and like, it's like we're a part of everything. When you really who's the guy? Not well. I guess Carl Sagan said it too. I'm thinking of the guy that hosts Cosmos now, Neil deGrasse Tyson.
Yeah.
Neil deGrasse Tyson says that we're, you break us down, we're all the same thing as like the stars, and so I kind of like that stuff like that blows my mind, and then the fact that like we're also merging with technology, and so all these like crazy ideas kind of mesh together, and then I add this like emotional spin to like what I'm going through lyrically, and just kind of put this story together.
Sort of like a Fear Factory.
Yes. Yes.
I'm seeing Dino tonight at the Soulfly show.
That's at Gramercy, right?
Yep.
That's gonna be awesome.
Will I see you there after this interview?
I will not be there. No, I will not be there tonight.
What a
shame. I just found out yesterday that they were playing.
But the final question I actually wanted to ask you is, and I always like having a New York City band on Heavy New York because it's Heavy New York. But and I always ask these bands this, but what is your current take on the New York City scene nowadays? Because I mean, like a lot of people thought that this pandemic was going to be the nail in the coffin that ended the New York City scene, but I'm seeing new clubs open up. I'm seeing a lot of shows happening. I mean, even with still a cloud of uncertainty over us, people are still working to make shit happen. What is your take on the scene now and where it's going, and what do you hope that the scene could do from here on out?
That's a really good question. It's New York has always been like the epicenter of like music, like that's stuck it to the man. And I think it's good that there's places popping up now, and I think it's good that it's so weird, man. It really puts me in a few different directions, because like there's so many bands that like broke up during the pandemic.
Yeah.
There's so many artists that just stopped, and that's the one thing that I remember once we realized, me and the guys, that the lockdowns were going to last longer than we thought, or some of us thought. I was like, we're not breaking up. Like we're going to use this time. We're going to write. We're going to keep going. Like we're going to be productive. Like a lot of bands are breaking up. That's not going to be us. And I think it's good that there's stuff popping up. I think it's good that shows are coming back. What I would like to see, and what I try to do with these guys, is take out. There's a lot of people that are angry over what's happened, what's going on, the way things are in New York, and I think now's the time to really always question authority. That's what made all these like scenes in the 70s and 80s, like people questioning authority and being like, wait, hold on a second, this doesn't sound right, and then writing about it and getting together and being like, hey, strength in numbers. I think strength in numbers are what's going to really make a scene survive.
Yeah.
We can't all be splintered. We can't all be fighting with each other and not respecting each other's points of view. Rock and roll is about like us versus those guys.
Yeah. And unfortunately, it's who are those guys that people are rebelling against. Because, I mean, I'm probably going to get so much shit for mentioning this, but fuck it. So, yeah. But I was at the controversial Madball show at Tompkins Square Park. That garnished a lot of controversy. Now,
good for you.
Yeah. I talked.
I was too.
Yeah. So I talked to a couple people, people who were for it and people who were against it, because I like to get different points of view from every aspect. So there was a point for people to be concerned. I totally doubt it. I was the only one there wearing a mask the whole time. I wasn't even, the only reason I was there is because I was infected 2 months prior and I had antibodies. So, like, what's more punk? Is it more punk rock because they said, fuck this pandemic and fuck this, we're not bowing down to this, let's, rebel and all that? Cool. But is it also more punk rock to put your needs aside and almost, I don't want to say surrender, but almost kind of deal with it as it is now and then come back with a vengeance when it's okay? I'm starting to wonder because for instance, I've cited this band a lot, but Earth Crisis, for example, right? They're straight edge and vegan, right? And they have that you better fucking listen to us attitude. Okay, but isn't punk rock supposed to be about thinking for yourself? So if I do everything Earth Crisis does, I throw the cigarettes and the alcohol away and go vegan, I'm succumbing to them. So does that make them really the quote unquote oppressor. No disrespect to Earth Crisis, I love that band, but so like I've always wondered like is the rebelling against authority becoming almost authoritarian in itself, and vice versa? Is almost like the best thing you can do is to almost follow a rule and say fuck you for not doing what's deemed to be right, so i've always I've always wondered about this. Like, is a band more punk rock for playing shows now, or is the band more noble? Because I think being noble as a band and being more down to earth is also just as good as being rebellious. Is it more noble for a band to not play now? So that's my TED talk.
That's great, man. That's a great way of looking at it. And the Tompkins Square Park thing. I mean, that's one of those things where people got really pissed off for both reasons. I have a friend. He's older than me, but he's been a punk rocker his whole life. Like his whole life, and he was one of those people that was like really pissed off about the Tompkins Square Park thing. And I'm like, well, I think my thing is it comes down to like, it's my thing is like people are arguing with each other. It's like there's so much anger towards each other for people making their own decisions. It's like nobody believes that the other person has is capable of making choices that will be safe for themselves and others.
Yeah. Well, and what upsets me is the most is that, like, so I started getting involved in the scene relatively later. Like, it was I started getting into the scene right after the 2016 election. So everybody bitched about the election for like a month, but then it was over and everybody went back to doing what they were doing. Nowadays, though, people were unfriending each other. People were saying, fuck. Like, I've never, like, so, but now shows are coming back. Is it going to be as if people are going to return to shows as if, like, none of that happened? Or is it going to be even more divided?
That's another great, like, question, because you would think that, okay, shows are coming back. Let's bring the community back together. Hey, that was a crazy year, blah, blah, blah. But, like, I feel like, now there's a new thing, if you catch my drift, that people are like, yeah, oh, you don't have that, I have that, blah, blah, blah. And it's like, why is everyone so, it just seems like there's one thing that divides us. And like you said, the 2016 election, that happened, and then it went away eventually.
Yeah.
With this pandemic, throughout the pandemic, there's been one thing after the other to divide people, even in the music scene. And it seems like it just keeps happening.
Yeah. And and like, it's funny too, because I would see some of the most, like, people would be like, I drink at Duff's, so I'm not going to go to Lucky's, or I go to Lucky 13, so I can't support, like, or like, this promoter's half-cousin stepson, effed my former friend's cousin's girlfriend, and that's so messed up. So it almost just seems like there's always like something behind music that people just can't focus on the music itself anymore.
Yeah, I mean, and I roll my eyes to a lot of that, because a lot of the stuff that like you and I listen to or go to was like, it's from like originally from like the counterculture movement, right? So the fact that people can be angry at each other for being not counterculture and vice versa, and that people will get divided over these like things like all the things you just mentioned. It's like, what was it, the thing you said? You said it's like behind the music is not necessarily even the music. It's like drama, basically.
Yeah. Like, it's like Facebook imprisoning me. All that I see, absolute drama. I cannot share. I cannot like. Sorry.
Yeah, I hear you, man. Like, I see it too, and it's like, well, geez, like what happened to a lot of these people? I might get shit for this too now, but like, you got bullied in high school, and now like you're grown up, and now the rest of us have to pay for it. Like, no, just like fucking get your shit together, and let's all do this together. And like it really, rock and roll for me, it's like us against the world.
Yeah. And I've always said too that I think nostalgia is like the worst thing too for music. It's like, I get it, CBGB's was a cultural hub and a part of New York City history. I was 13 when it closed, and I'm a week away from being 28. It's gone. It's never coming back. All right? I understand how bands cut their teeth in that club. Guess what?
Yeah.
Now they're going to be cutting their teeth at St. Vitus. Now they're going to be cutting their teeth at the Kingsland. Now they're going to be cutting their teeth at Lucky 13. It's like, I've always hated that term, the old days, like the good old days. I get why people gravitate towards that, but the people in the scene are just going to keep getting younger and younger and younger. And if you want the scene to live, you're going to want to attract people in that scene. And by saying that it's not what it used to be anymore is not exactly a good tagline.
Yeah, you want to encourage. You always want to encourage younger people. I mean, but that's kind of gone on for forever, like the good old days, the good old days. I mean, I remember when I started in playing music and going to shows and like, you know, in other bands, and I would play with these like older bands, and they'd look at us like, you know, who the hell fuck do you think you are? Like, you weren't even aware when Kurt Cobain shot himself, like shit like that. And it's like, well, what good is that gonna? That's gonna make kids bitter.
Yeah, like I remember the first time I saw Life of Agony. I was online to see them at Irving Plaza. I was so excited. I've wanted to see Life of Agony forever. One of the best bands to come out of New York. And I'm waiting online at Irving Plaza trying to make a discussion. And like one guy was like, "Your first time? I saw them back when the singer was a dude." I'm like, okay, but you're still online to see them
like
again.
I've heard that so many times.
Yeah. So like. It just, I think we're going off on too much of a tangent. But
I feel like we could do this forever.
Yeah.
We're kind of kindred spirits here.
Yeah. It just feels good to talk to a band not from Sweden for once. But before we go, I want to thank you so much for your time and for a great conversation.
Thank you, man. It's great. I always love running into you, like I was saying, and it's great talking to you.
Yeah, absolutely. Glad we could finally make this happen. Is there just anything else with the Amatory Murder you'd like to promote?
Sure. I mean, check out our new video, Are We the Machines? It's very, very dear to me personally because I filmed the whole thing and edited the whole thing. This, the other thing with the pandemic is you had to kind of learn how to do things yourself. So,
yeah.
So that's and it's got a bunch of our friends in it. We're so happy with how it came out. So Are We the Machines is on YouTube. I believe we're going to be playing a show in Philadelphia, September 25th with Cora Rosic.
Okay.
Which is, I'm looking forward to that. So that's, and in November, I think we're playing we're playing the Unconvention in New Jersey. That's a festival from November 12th, 13th, and 14th.
Awesome.
So we'll be doing that. Yeah, I'm happy things are coming back.
Definitely. Knocking on wood, it stays that way. But
yeah, we'll see, right?
Thank you so much, everybody. We are here with the Amatory Murder. This is Alex from Heavy New York. We will see you next time.